Hey, M4G friends. It's good to see you. Sort of see you. It's good to be seen. I don't know. This is the weirdness that is me. I'm not Coach Ash today, or at least for this video. I am Ashleen. I have major depressive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, seasonal affective disorder, and I believe but have not officially been diagnosed with social anxiety disorder. So, yay! Good times over here in this fun body and mind that I have going on. I'm really excited to talk today about mental health. And even if you don't check all the boxes that I just checked or any of those boxes, honestly, more power to you. But mental health is still important. So I'm excited to talk for just a few minutes today before our seminar tomorrow, where we'll hear stories from people who have experienced things like I have and hopefully things like you have. So stress and anxiety are growing in the United States. Good times. Since COVID, honestly, everything's been on the rise. So 1/3 of the adults in the United States reported symptoms of anxiety or depression in 2023. So if you had anxiety or depression symptoms in 2023, you are certainly not alone. Very few of those people who reported those symptoms sought any kind of treatment or got any kind of help. So that's something really to dig into and think about. 17% of the US reported being depressed in 2023. That doesn't mean they were diagnosed with depression. That means that they reported that they were feeling depressed. And then anxiety is treatable, but 60% of the people who said they had anxiety did not seek treatment. Isn't that fascinating? We're saying we're more stressed, things are piling on, we're feeling these symptoms of depression, but we're not really doing anything about it. We're just allowing it to build up. But even if you're not feeling like, oh, this categorizes as depression, even those little stressors or short-term anxieties or difficult circumstances can build up and negatively impact your health. I'm not going to share all of those statistics because in this kind of conversation, it's not really that important, but you can absolutely Google negative impacts of mental health on your physical health. And it's like, you'll get all of these statistics of your heart conditions and all of like just your life, it decreases, the lifespan, that's the word. Your lifespan decreases, like all of this stuff is impacted by your mental health. So it is important and it changes the way that you see the world, honestly. So something to think about. And if you are not experiencing mental illness, awesome. I'm very happy for you. But statistically, someone you know is. So if we take those statistics I talked about, then in 2023, 50 to 60 people at M4G alone experienced symptoms of anxiety and depression. Worth talking about, right? Worth thinking about. So mental health impacts your physical health, and it's just something that we want to talk about at M4G because it's part of your whole person. When we talk about evolving as a person, this is part of it. And sometimes putting in effort is not just lifting more at the gym. It's not just running harder. It's putting in the effort emotionally to deal with those things, and that can be incredibly difficult. But I just want to talk about where to start if you are experiencing those things, and then where to start if you're noticing someone else is experiencing those things and how to be supportive. Because I think we don't talk about this enough, and hopefully by you watching this and me talking about it, we can start these conversations. So if you're experiencing any kind of mental illness symptoms, even if it's not categorized as mental illness yet and it's just short term, you're like, it's just circumstantial, any of those feelings, the first thing to do is find a therapist. I know that feels so daunting and can feel so daunting. I honestly just went almost 1.5 years without going to a therapist because my therapist had moved and I didn't find another one. And like, I clearly, you heard my list of diagnoses. I need therapy. So it can be really daunting. So I would say you can start with a doctor. You can message your doctor. You don't even have to go see them and say, hey, I'm looking for a therapist. Any recommendations? Also, tons of us at the gym have therapists. You'll probably hear some of us tomorrow at the mental health seminar if you come talking about our therapists, and you can just ask in a group. You can be like, hey, does anybody have a therapist they really love? and we can share with you. A lot of times you can find one through your insurance. So if you go and like find a doctor or find a care network, you can look for a therapist on there that will go through your insurance. And then, yeah, you can talk to people at the seminar tomorrow and just say, hey, where do I start with finding a therapist? Because talking about your symptoms, talking about your feelings is the first start to having any kind of control over them. Because if they stay in your head, it's so difficult to work on those problems alone. And I know a lot of us feel like, I can work on my issues. Like, I don't need help with this. Well, okay, first of all, what makes you special that you don't need help and I do? That's my first question. But second of all, okay, maybe you don't need help, but that doesn't mean you have to do it alone. Like, why would you make it harder? We come to CrossFit because we want that community to work hard to suffer together. This is just another piece of that. You can step forward and say, I want help with this situation, and that is okay. So first step, find a therapist. Second step, and you can base it on what your therapist says if you want to go that track first. But talk to your doctor, see if medication is a good idea, any kinds of supplement changes, certain like B12 deficiencies or vitamin B deficiencies. I'm on something for my vitamin B deficiency, and it helps me metabolize the antidepressants that I do take. So just things that you don't even think about, or like a happy light that you can sit by in the morning that mimics sunlight and wakes up all of your neurons and gets them firing and everything. So talking to your doctor can be helpful, and then talk to someone else about it. Share your experience. And I'm not saying treat your friend like your therapist. I want to tell you, talk to your coaches about it, because we all care about you. I promise. Every single one of us coaches because we care about you. And I do want you to talk to us and share your experience, but we are not your therapist. One, we are not qualified. Two, we're not unbiased. We know parts of your life. We know your friends. We know what's going on. And that's not the kind of person you want to talk to about it, like in a therapeutic sense. And then three, we just don't have time. I would love to sit and chat with all of you, every single one of you, about your journey, but we don't have all the time for that all the time. So definitely talk to your coaches and share how you're feeling, and just say, hey, this is what I'm going through. Can you help encourage me through that? And we will absolutely cheer you on. Like, that is what we are here for. So tell your coaches if you're struggling, but yeah, just think about, okay, maybe seeing a therapist and having some other friends to talk to as well. And ask for what you need. Oh my gosh, guys. Ugh. Asking for what you need is so hard, and figuring out what you need is so hard. Oh my gosh, it's so difficult. So, and that's something you can work on in therapy. Just go into therapy when they say, what's going on? You can say, hey, I'm experiencing these symptoms and I want to figure out what I need. What do I need? And they'll be like, okay, great, let's work on that. And then, yeah, just ask your friends, ask your family for what you need. So those are the first things I would do if I was experiencing new symptoms for the first time, or maybe even old symptoms I've just never done something about. So then I would say practice self-care. And this does not have to be fluffy. It doesn't have to be like bath bombs and tea. I'm drinking espresso right now, let's go. So practice self-care. Some ideas for that is sharing your experience to get it out of your head. I talked about that, but just asking a friend a coffee and saying, hey, this is how I'm feeling. It doesn't have to be a formal thing. You don't have to be like, I'm going to confess to you my deepest, darkest secrets. Like, you can just be like, hey, this is what I'm dealing with, and I just wanted you to know. Stay active. We all know this because of CrossFit, but it doesn't have to be CrossFit. If you just can't today, go for a 3-minute walk and get those, get that serotonin moving. Like, just try to move a little bit, and that is totally fine. Next, be patient with yourself. Oh my gosh, this again is so hard, but Becky and I used to have a podcast, and we would talk a lot about treating yourself like a science experiment. So rather than leaping to judgment, like, oh my gosh, why can't I get this done? Why am I feeling so anxious? This is stupid. This is not a big deal. Instead of judging, say, oh, this is interesting that this is coming up. I wonder what that's from. I wonder if it would happen if this happened, or if I did this. Treat yourself like you're trying to solve a problem, a mystery, and instead of judging. And a lot of times you'll find that those feelings will just kind of simmer down, even just by doing that, rather than judging yourself. And then set boundaries when you need them. Time, energy, resources. Again, this is not an easy thing, but if you're like, I am just always tired, okay, well, you need to address that. You need to figure out what that's going to look like to change it. And then finally, take time to figure out what you need. And I know I said this, it's so hard, but maybe journal if you're someone who likes to journal, or ask others what they've done. Say, this is how I'm feeling. What have you done? What have you needed in that moment? And then just try asking for it and see if that helps. Maybe you need to sleep more. Maybe you need someone to bring you a meal once a week, a healthy meal. Maybe you need someone to text you and say, are you out of bed yet? Whatever it is, try to figure out what you need. And then if you are not struggling with these things, or even if you are, but you want to encourage others, here are just 5 quick things that I would say. Ask questions. Absolutely ask questions, but give an out. So one of my friends is so good at saying, she'll say, hey, total freedom not to share if you're not feeling it, but what does that look like for you? You know, if I make a side comment like, oh my gosh, I just can't get out of bed. And she's like, hey, you don't have to talk more about that if you don't want to, but I'd love to know what's going on there. And that can be so helpful as someone who is kind of overwhelmed or experiencing anxiety. Like, I don't have to share, but I know that she cares. That can be really helpful. And then be patient with answers and growth. Just because someone shares something doesn't mean it's going to change. That's just the reality sometimes. And so be patient with people. And then don't feel the need to compare or lighten things up. You do not at any point need to start a sentence with at least. So if I told you, man, I wanted to die last week. And that's true. Actually, I did want to die last week because I was changing medications. It was just a whole thing. If I said that to you, you could say, well, you know, at least you're feeling better this week. Or at least things are, you know, you have somewhere to go. You have people who love you. Well, why are you trying to lighten it up? You don't need to. Just sit in that with me and be like, man, that sucks. I'm sorry. I'm glad you're here. You do not need to lighten it or compare. Like, you don't need to be like, oh gosh, yeah, I felt that way once when I had pneumonia. Or, you know, you don't need to compare or lighten things up. Just be with it. Just be okay. And then when you're asking questions, ask for sure if they want help or if they want suggestions or if they just want you to listen. Just say, hey, do you just want me to listen right now? Or would it be helpful if we brainstorm some ideas? Because people frequently don't want help or suggestions, especially if you don't know the full story, but they do want to know that you're listening. And then finally make it clear you're available and want to support them and that you care for them. Just be really clear and say, hey, I want to listen to you anytime you want to get coffee, or if you need somebody, please call me. Here's my number. Just make it clear that when they need you, you are available. Those are my thoughts for encouraging others. Yeah, guys, this is really tough. This is a tough subject, but even by listening to this video or watching this video and then maybe coming to the seminar tomorrow, starting this conversation, you're being brave. You're reaching out to others, you're listening to others, you're asking questions, and I'm proud of you for doing that. It's really hard. So take time to talk to someone at the gym, whether you're asking questions about how they're doing, excuse me, or sharing how you're doing. And then, you know, just take the next step. What is that one next step? If you need to take it one moment at a time, you can do it. I believe in you. You can do hard things. I've seen you do it. Every single time I see you in the gym, I see you doing a hard thing. And this is a hard thing. And I know you can do it. So take care of yourselves, friends. If you want to ask me any questions, I'm totally open. I know Coach Nicole is also open to that. And we're happy to talk with you.